right.
Studies legit or shit?
I think studies are. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Gym Talk. My name is Cameron. I have here
My name is Danny.
Danny and I go through topics related to the fitness industry, and we talk about the nuances of these topics. Today is our legit or shit series, and we're going to look at exercise studies, whether they are legit or shit. I've seen some prominent fitness influencers discuss exercise studies, kind of critique them in a way that makes them seem not as credible, because a lot of these studies don't use experienced athletes or lifters. They tend to use general population. I know that there is a reason for that. Studies are expensive. Studies are time consuming. They require you taking out, some of them will require that you take out bits of muscle and stuff too and test them.
Yeah.
And so this can be difficult for a professional athlete or a professional lifter, because who's going to want to stop what they're doing to partake in a study where they're not going to get paid very much, and they may have a competition coming up soon. So let's go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Are exercise studies legit or shit?
So to answer the question, we have to consider the different classes, I think, of people is where it gets the nuances for me. Because most studies are done on untrained individuals because of reasons you just laid out. It's much easier to get an untrained individual to follow a certain protocol for a set amount of time, typically because either their schedules are more open or they're just getting into fitness or for whatever reason. It is much more difficult, like you're saying, to get a professional athlete to do these things because, one, they're probably in the middle competing, or even an advanced lifter to get to do these things, because someone who's really advanced, they may not be professional, but they could be chasing at professional level and have goals to meet. They're not going to take time off to do your 16-week study of bone density or muscle mass. They're not going to take that time. But then even beyond that, like next step down to me would be a trained lifter, and more common to see like slightly trained lifters in these studies where they discuss untrained versus trained. Never typically advanced, never typically professional. I see some studies with trained lifters, but again, trained lifters are also not in the norm. Untrained, 9 times out of 10, is the norm in all of these studies. But I don't think that discredits the physiology or the science behind these studies. All I think it does is you take whatever the results are for these untrained individuals, and then as you get more experience and more reps and become more and more advanced in lifting and training, I just think you dial it down, because the body becomes used to these processes and it slows it down, and it doesn't make as drastic of changes. We know this. We've seen it in muscle growth. We've seen it in strength gains. We've seen it from untrained to trained, let alone from trained to professional. So I think we just dial these processes down, and it just takes longer and longer to see even the more minute growth, the more advanced you get.
So then what do you think? You think that the results from a trained athlete or whatever, is it going to be, are you going to see the stimulus diluted, or do you
Exactly.
Okay, so you think it's going to get diluted?
Yes.
But I think that calls for legitimacy in the studies, because we will see these results. Yes, they may diminish a little bit as the athlete becomes more experienced, but I don't think it takes away from the credibility of the study like some other fitness influencers will say, because
Exactly. No, I'm exactly on the same page. The mechanics and the biology behind the study, from untrained to professional even, don't change. Your body doesn't recognize like, oh, I'm pretty good at this now. Maybe I should switch up how I'm doing it. Maybe I should switch up how I grow muscle because I'm really good at it now. Your body doesn't do that. It builds muscle the same way every single time. It adds strength gains the same way every single time. There's different mechanisms which you could build muscle or strength gains, but we won't dive into that. They're the same processes no matter what.
Yeah.
They just get better at doing it, and you start to reach your genetic limit eventually, and so it slows down drastically.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of people, as you get to the upper tiers of performance, they tend to use performance-enhancing drugs.
Because it works.
Because it works.
Because it works.
If you're trying to be the world's strongest man or whatever it is, you are going to do what is necessary to achieve that title.
And the thing is, too, that is also another training group, which I didn't even mention, is performance enhanced people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other training group that, to me, that almost resets you back to newbie because it depends on how you react. But performance enhancing, like people, have you heard the phrase grow into a show?
No.
That's a very common bodybuilding phrase where you put on size and muscle mass going into a show as you're leaning down.
Yeah.
Totally defies thermodynamics. You put on muscle while you're in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Totally defies it. Only people that have been shown to elicit that kind of property is either people who are on performance-enhancing drugs, so taking extra anabolics to aid in muscle growth while you're in a deficit, or untrained individuals who are still adjusting, who are literally, you've seen it, you've trained people who are brand new to the gym, who as they're losing weight, put on muscle.
Yeah.
It's just their body adapting to the new stimulus.
Yeah.
So those are the only two groups I've seen grow into a show, but like I was saying, that's a whole different training group, the people who use PEDs.
Yeah. And I think that to say there is some field or some area in which we're missing out on by not having the top tier athletes, performers, whatever, included in these studies, I don't think it matters all that much, like you were saying. I think it's we are gonna, maybe you lose a little bit out on it, but there's credibility in these studies, and it does show how the body responds to training stimuli. And I think we can take that for what it is and understand it and apply it. But saying that, but these people train so hard and they're professionals and they achieve, whatever better than anybody else, I don't know if that's legit.
Yeah. The only thing I personally would like to see is just what the differences are. I can't deny that to have more trained professionals in these studies would be very interesting and cool to see. Obviously, we want to know how they tick. I mean, they're so good at what they do.
Yeah.
Of course, we want to emulate that. Of course, we want to do what they're doing, but the processes won't be drastically different.
Yeah,
if at all.
I don't think they'll be that different either.
If at all, if even. And then also, on the other hand of these things, some people are quite literally just built different.
For sure.
Even if you're the most optimal in how you take your approach and your programs, your meal plans, and everything like that, sometimes you just won't be as good as that guy that lucked out with his genetics.
Yeah.
That's just the way of life. That's just the way it works.
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking about genetics and stuff, and how they play a role in these things, but I think genetics are a topic for another discussion.
Yeah, I think that could be a whole other video, to be honest.
That's a whole another video that we will do.
We will do.
All right.
Studies legit or shit?
I think studies are legit.
I think that you're a fool to say. If you were to say studies are shit, I think you're a fool.
Yeah.
Studies are very clearly legit, and I haven't seen these people you're talking about that are trying to discredit them. I do think what I see much more commonly is people morphing a study to prove whatever point they're trying to make and totally missing the conclusion or the result of the study. Have you seen more stuff like that? I've seen that more commonly. People say like, sugar actually does, or diet soda is a hot one right now. Diet soda actually has been shown to increase weight gain in obese individuals. And they don't take that into account. So the study that I saw
hold on
was
a second, because I know what you're talking about, but those aren't controlled, and they have done studies where they've given people diet soda instead of water, and the diet soda group lost more weight than the water group did.
Well, that's my point exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly my point. Diet soda, 0-calorie soda, does not cause weight gain.
No.
But people will say it does because these people who are already obese put on weight while drinking soda. And they're like,
but what else did they do?
They ate more.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly my point. That's what I'm saying. So people will take these studies and they'll take them to frame their point of view and to prove what they're trying to prove without actually either reading it. I don't know if they're misreading it or if they're just have bad will. I have no idea what these people are doing.
Yeah.
But that's one issue I see more common than people just saying they're useless.
They'll cherry pick the data so it fits their narrative.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And people will discredit certain exercise studies because they say that, well, when you have an experienced lifter, they're able to do X, Y, and Z better than the general population. The general population will get a greater training stimulus because they're untrained or whatever. And
the untrained will get a better training stimulus no matter what. But you still doesn't mean you should train however the hell you want. You should still train properly. you should still train optimally. You'll see better, faster results doing so.
Yeah, I wish we could get studies done where you could see a lot more professional athletes or whatever, longer term studies and stuff. But the problem is that they are expensive, they're time consuming, and controlling all the elements. This is why humans are difficult to study, because they have lives. We can't contain them in a room and just observe them and do these different types of experiments on them and see what happens. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Not to mention, advanced and professionals are such a small sub percentage of the population that who this actually be benefiting.
Yeah.
Advanced and professionals.
Yeah.
It's not going to be it's not going to be
point.
worth it for the normal population. So it comes back to money,
yeah,
unfortunately.
I know. Joe Schmo is not going to have the time to go and do what these professional athletes do. It's
exactly.
just, it's like, no, you have different things you want to achieve.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I get it. Right. Did we say legit? I said legit. We answered the binary.
We both said legit, yeah.
Okay.
We both said legit.
There it is. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. We want to know, do you believe that exercise studies are legit or shit? Stick around for future episodes on legit or shit, bro science review. We got plenty more coming at you. We'll catch you in the next one.